continues on to say that this is not just for elders, and the place it takes me for that is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 2. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, man, wife, and let each woman have her own husband. One wife, one husband, one man, one woman. Monogamy. And that's not even just talking about leaders either. It's talking about congregation. Continues on to say the example of godly people is also important. Isaac and Rebekah were monogamous, which they indeed were. They're also often used as a model in Jewish weddings today. Other examples were Joseph and Asenath, Asenath. I think it's Asenath. Moses and Zipporah. And the only survivors of the flood were 4 monogamous couples. If you think about the story of Abraham, he was only married to Sarah, and Sarah had him have relations with her servant Hagar because she thought she was barren and they wanted to have a child. So he does that with Hagar, and she gets pregnant by him, and so because she gave him permission for that would be considered polygamy. However, he still wasn't married to Hagar, so that would be adultery. No matter what you believe about polygamy being different from adultery, that would be adultery, for one. For two, she was okay with it, so going by definitions of polygamy that I've heard, that would still classify as polygamy. And guess what happened? God took that son away from Abraham, Ishmael. He sent Hagar away with Ishmael, and Abraham never saw him again. He lost his son because he broke the monogamous relationship with his wife. And for the rest of their life, Abraham was only ever married to Sarah. He only had relations with Sarah for the rest of his life. Abraham was considered the father of our faith, but he was not perfect. He was just super faithful to God. So far that he was willing to sacrifice his own son, which he was stopped from doing that by an angel, which makes me happy that he was stopped, because I don't believe that God really wants us to kill our own sons and daughters. He was just testing Abraham's faith, and he was never going to let him go completely through with it. I think Abraham knew that. And that's why he was willing to go with it to begin with. Anyways, there's more here about it. It continues on to say, it is very important to remember that not everything recorded in the Bible is approved in the Bible. Consider where polygamy originated. First, in the line of the murderer Cain, not the line of Seth. The first recorded polygamist was the murderer Lamech, which it goes to Genesis chapter 4. I apologize, this is a longer episode, guys. There's just a lot. There's a lot here to answer this question. Verses 23 through 24 in chapter 4. Then Lamech said to his wives, Lamech was the first example. And then Esau, who despised his birthright, also caused much grief to his parents by marrying 2 pagan wives. And that's in Genesis 26, verse 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he took as wives Judith, the daughter of Beri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon Hittite. And they were a grief of mine to Isaac and Rebekah. Grief. They were a grief. It hurt his relationship with his parents. I don't know the full story there. Maybe that was the purpose. To grieve them. But that's not what you should do. You shouldn't do things to grieve your parents. God also forbade the kings of Israel to have many wives. In Deuteronomy 17:17. Chapter 17, verse 17. Neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. If you increase the number of wives, your heart is going to turn away from your wife. You have one wife, and you love her very much. You then take another wife, and another wife. Somewhere down the road, your heart's going to turn away, probably for most of them, if not all of them. Look at the trouble when Israel's kings disobeyed, including deadly sibling rivalry between David's sons from his different wives. At the point, David was in a polygamous relationship. He had multiple wives, and as it says here, there was deadly consequences. His sons fought over the attention of these wives, because I'm assuming they viewed just like one or all of them as mothers, and they fought for the affection of them. And it talks about it in 2 Samuel chapter 13 and 1 Kings chapter 2. And Solomon's hundreds of wives helped lead Solomon to adultery. I don't know much about Solomon, to be honest. I haven't been in Solomon's, and I've not read a lot in Kings. But yeah, the thing that talks about that is in 1 Kings chapter 11. I can actually read this because it's not too awfully long. Chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. But King Solomon loved many foreign women, as well as the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, from the nations of whom the Lord had said to the children of Israel, you shall not intermarry with them, nor they with you. Surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods. Solomon clung to those in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. He turned him away from God. In part because many of them were from nations that God said, no, you shall not have wives from there. in part because he had so many. I mean, if you have so many, what need of you have God? Personally, I would say that would be when you need Jesus the most to get you out of such situations. What about godly men who are polygamous? It's the next section in this article. Abraham and Sarah would have been monogamous apart from a low point in their faith when Hagar became a second wife. Note how much strife this caused later with Ishmael and Isaac and their descendants to this day. Because before God sent Hagar and Ishmael away, Isaac and Ishmael did not get along. And to this day, their descendants fight. Because Isaac's descendants are those in Israel. Ishmael's are the people in the nations who are fighting against Israel right now. They're at war to this day because of this polygamous relationship Abraham had by introducing Hagar into that relationship. Consequences that lasted for generations. And will all polygamous relationships end that badly? I don't know, but there's always consequences. And it's not a fault of anyone else besides the people taking the action, which is true for people facing consequences for any action, whether it's polygamous, the sin of polygamy, the sin of being violent to people. Like if I walked up to you and slapped you in the face, that would be my choice, and the consequences of that would be on me. It would not be on you for whatever reason I think caused me to slap you. That being said, whatever you did to make me mad enough to slap you, the consequence of me is slapping you, it's on you. If I slapped you for no reason, that's on me. But the fact that I chose to slap you at all would have been on me. But I use that analogy in relation to rioting, because I've heard people defend people who riot saying, well, they tried other means and they weren't listened to, or you gotta look at what caused this to happen. I don't care what caused it to happen, it's not okay to riot. The destruction of property and the harm to living beings and fellow humans that rioters cause is not, in my opinion, and in any sane person's opinion, I would think, it's not how to gain attention. Because to me, if you're willing to hurt an innocent person in order to be heard, then you don't deserve to be heard. There are better ways to do it, and yes, maybe those ways are harder to get noticed and to be listened to. But no one said that the correct path is easy. You don't want to go the easy route. You want to go the hard route, because most time, 9 out of 10 times, the hard route is probably the more correct route. Write strong-worded letters. Talk to your political leaders. Don't riot. Don't riot and then wonder why you're being thrown in jail and nothing's being done about what you're saying. Don't blame other people. for the mistakes of your own. Don't blame the victim. Because this is in no way Hagar's fault, what happened with Abraham. She's not the one who, she's not the one whose idea it was. It's all the consequences of Abraham's actions of doing it. Sarah gave him the idea, yes, but Abraham did it. And that calls generations. Generations. Thousands of years worth of generations to fight with each other. It's a never-ending sibling rivalry. Why did God seem to allow it then? Is the name of the oh wait, hold on, there's more here on going men, and because it continues to talk about Jacob, how Jacob wanted only Rachel, but was tricked into marrying her older sister Leah, and later he took their slave girls at the sisters' urging, due to the rivalry between the sisters. That would be a very dysfunctional relationship right there. I mean, you can see the dysfunction. The sisters were rivals. They fought with each other so much that they involved the servant girls, whether the servant girls wanted it or not. That was harmful to those servant girls, and it was harmful to Rachel and Leah, because not only did they get brought into the rivalry, but their children were taken from them by the wives, and for the wives to raise as their own. Jacob was hardly at a spiritual high point at those times, and neither was David when he added Abigail and Ahinoam. Also, Hannah, Samuel's mother, was humiliated by her husband Elkanah's other wife, Peninnah, because of Hannah's previous barrenness. And it sounds like some harsh treatment between the two wives. Anyways, continuing on to the next section that says, why did God seem to allow it then? God's permitting of polygamy seems more like the case of divorce, which God tolerated for a while under certain conditions because of the hardness of their hearts. But it was not the way it was intended from the beginning. And it takes us to Matthew chapter 19, verse 8. By the way, for those of you curious, in the last section where it talks about Ishmael and Isaac and Sarah and Hagar in Genesis chapters 16 and 21, and talks about David's stuff in 1 Samuel chapter 25, 42 through 43, and Samuel's mother is talked about in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. Alright, anyways, so for where it takes me for it's not the way it was intended from the beginning is Matthew 19, chapter 19, verse 8. And it says, he said to them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, permitted you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another, commits adultery. And whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. Which I went on through verse 9 there. That section as a whole proves marriage was meant to be for life. And except for in certain circumstances, to divorce someone and then get married again, it's adultery. seems very clear cut there. I remember finding other acceptable reasons for divorce in the Bible than just sexual immorality. Like, I have an extremely hard time believing that God would want you to stay in an abusive relationship. Because to me, if you're abusing your spouse, you're breaking the covenant that you have with them. Because spouses are supposed to be partners. They're supposed to look out for each other, and you're supposed to protect them. If you're abusing them, then you're not protecting them. You're not looking out for them. You might think you are. I don't know what all goes into the minds of an abuser, but I've heard stories of some of them saying things like, "I'm doing this for your own protection," and they might legit believe that they are, but they aren't. Anyways, let's continue on here. Whenever the Mosaic Law had provisions for polygamy, it was always the conditional if he takes another wife to himself. Let's just go read that full verse. Exodus 21, verse 10. Finishing out that sentence, never an encouragement. If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food or her clothing and her marriage rights. If he does not do these three for her, then she shall go out free without paying money. Which is not encouraging it. It's saying, if you did do this, you better not start treating your first wife worse than you are. Which 9 times, out of 9 times, I was going to say out of 10, but we're only human. There is no way where we would have a wife or a husband and we devoted a certain amount of stuff to them, where we would be able to give all of that to them still if we took another spouse. There's no way. We're only human. We can't give all of ourselves to our spouse if we have another spouse. I would not be able to give all of myself to 2 husbands. I would only be able to give part of myself to each one. Which is why I only have 1 husband. So I want to be able to give all of me. God puts a number of obligations on the husband towards the additional wives, which would discourage polygamy. In view of the problems it causes, it is no wonder that polygamy was unknown among the Jews after the Babylonian exile, and monogamy was the rule even among the Greeks and Romans by New Testament times. That's it for that article, and I think it covered it in the verses that it took us to cover quite a bit. I did notice something else while I was in church this morning. In Isaiah chapter 62, verse 5, particularly the second half of it. But this first half of it us too. For as a young man marries a virgin, which it can be debated about virgin, because especially with this day and age, past is past, not think about the past. My personal opinion, and the opinion of most people who try to do their best to follow God and what he says in the Bible, believe that one should save sex for marriage. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. So shall your sons marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. The bridegroom, singular. Bride, singular. So yeah, there is plenty evidence in the Bible calling for monogamy, which is marriage between two people. Plenty of evidence in the Bible that's what God's plan is. And that God's plan is for marriage to last for life. Now, in this broken world, that is extremely difficult to do, to have marriage last for life. But it does happen. And there is hope for it to happen. The problem is with people. And people giving up. And I don't fault people for giving up. However, I believe as a culture that we need to fight more for teaching our kids and young adults how to handle relationships and problems that will pop up in them in healthy ways that will not destroy the relationships. We need to stop focusing on, honestly, we need to stop focusing on just some of the things that are being focused on, and there should at least be a class offered about how to have a healthy relationship and how to get out of relationships that are bad for you before they reach the marriage stage, and how to healthily handle conflicts between that arise in any long-term relationship. Because it would better set people up for marriage and for having that marriage last. Because stories I've heard, people get divorced for the silliest of reasons. Oh, I don't love you anymore. Love is not a feeling. Feelings come and go. It's just a fact. If you love someone, that means you're dedicated to them. You have a commitment. It's a house you enter in and throw away the key. You don't give up on it just because your feelings are diminished. Find ways to bring them back. Anyways, I've been going for almost an hour. I apologize for the length of this episode. It's just a large topic. Maybe I'll split this up into 2 episodes. Anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys didn't get too offended. But if you're offended, take it up with God, because the truth is the truth. I'm not going to sit here and say anything but. The Bible speaks against polygamy and speaks for monogamy. Again, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe down below if you want to see more and learn more about the Bible and learn more about what makes me me. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comment section. If I missed verses that you know of that also point for, or you have verses that you think point to the other way, drop them in the comment section below and I will get back to you. In the meantime, don't forget to keep it real, spread the love, and stay determined. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!